This week we kind of just started to scratch the surface and to irritate the status quo that we all kind of operate in within our research bubbles and things like that. And so I think as we see agroecology grow and become something that more people can, see themselves in, I think that is where we'll see what the co-production of knowledge actually looks like.
So we've brought together just under 100 people to Kansas City to talk about agroecology and how research can support agroecology, with the purpose of thinking about the future and how we can work together as a community committed to putting social justice and sustainability at the heart of our thinking about redesigning agriculture and food systems.
I think this gathering will be critical in being able to say what we need to have in order to have real transformational change, which we know we need because the world's on fire. Our communities, both urban and rural, are struggling.
All the agroecological knowledge that you need to know, you can learn from BIPOC communities here north of the U.S.-Mexico border. Or if you want to include, since Mexico is part of North America, Mexico, U.S., and Canada are incredible sources of agroecological knowledge. So we need to stop pretending that somehow you have to go to some faraway place, maybe, to study the water temples in Bali or the frijol tapado ecosystem in Central America. All legitimate concerns, but if you're searching for answers that will also account for the unique settler colonial history and context of this country, then you need to start collaborating, not studying, but collaborating with our BIPOC and especially our indigenous communities that have developed these agroecological systems for multiple generations.
These kinds of initiatives have been happening internationally, so that's exciting. But agroecology is a very broad group of people, from academics to government agencies to practitioners, students. So we have a representation of people from different aspects of agroecology, from kind of natural to social scientists. We have a lot of practitioners. We have a few funders here.
It's something that we can think about and we can theorize about, but it's really a practice, right? And for me, that practice looks like deliberative dialogue. It looks like sitting in circle with community, people who may not be my community, right, but still being committed to a similar ground, being committed to the future and whatever we want that future to look like.
The U.S. federal government is pouring a fire hose of funds into USDA programs. There's a lot of claims about the fact that this is going to help support sustainable agriculture, thinking about social, economic, and ecological functions. But we are going to replicate the same things if we don't really lean in and demand that it cannot be business as usual.
But we shouldn't be handing the reins of the agroecology movement or visioning to these institutions that are not always accountable to the communities that are really practicing agroecology. So I think this is a really important space to be able to talk about that tension and those tactics, both from a research and from a policy perspective.
So that also means how we do the research matters. So how people work together, how they collaborate, what are the data, methods, tools, frameworks that they're going to use to be able to do that, means it looks different from what people are taught in universities to date. So yeah, it's been very exciting, and it's I think moving some really important work and moving teaching and research institutes to think about new ways of doing research that really address local issues in an ecological way.
So in thinking about it from an international perspective, because the US is one of the places that is heavily promoting this dominant paradigm of industrial production of food, what are the implications for communities, for environments, for nature, and for policies in the international arena, which is something we face a lot in Malawi, where you see heavy promotion of industrial agriculture having really damaging effects on communities and on policies and on environments in the international context.
I think funders and other donors are seeing the importance of agroecological approaches. When 2 to 15% of ag R&D budgets are funding agroecological research practice and other, it's just not enough. So we need more funders.
I like that we were able to have a little after party or mini gathering of agroecologists here on a farm. Agroecology as farming practice instead of agroecology as framing discourse. And also, in the spirit of co-creation, I don't think we should privilege one over the other. You know, I think they're both work. The work that academics do, the work that scholars do, and the work that people with hands on the land do. And they can both be embodied in the same person.
And understanding that that fellowship is the basis of the justice that we are able to create, that listening with each other, that transmission of knowledge, that transmission of skills that are shared across culture, language, time, space.
I mean, it was powerful listening to the story of the maize, the story of the seed. To go back to your point, listening to the seeds is like, there's so much knowledge and experience, wisdom that's embodied in every seed. And then it grows, and then, you know, there's knowledge on the cultivation and the preparation, and then the sharing, and then the sharing of knowledge and recipes.
I asked this question: how does the research contribute to our tribes and our clans and our communities? How is the research going to help us to tell our stories? Is the data translated into a richness of flavor that empowers and reinforces the ownership by those who are researched? What is the gift and the legacy that we, along with the assistance and the help of the researchers, are going to be able to leave for future generations?
So out of this process, there's going to be all sorts of new ideas, initiatives, ways of learning, materials that people can take in and connect with. And so whether you're someone who's at a university doing research, or in a classroom at a high school as a teacher or a student, or somebody who's eating food or producing food, there's a lot to take from this space in terms of thinking about agriculture and food systems in different ways, and how you can contribute to creating a more just and sustainable future.
Old seeds, new hope, in regards to this struggle over agroecology and the path forward, with all the wisdom embodied in those seeds, old seeds, seeds that have survived genocide, colonialism. There's still a new hope that the ground can be prepared for these seeds to germinate. The conditions can be possible for these seeds to germinate and be cared for